I reckon that we'll probably have a few more people joining over the next 3 to 5 minutes, but rather than wait for them, I think we can just get started. If you've got any questions or comments or thoughts that you'd like to share, just raise your hand. I'll unmute you, and then you'll be able to, contribute. And also, sometimes I'll be asking questions of you guys to at least think as thought experiments. But sometimes you might actually have some examples that you can provide. Yeah, that would be hugely beneficial if you could share that with us. Alrighty, so let's get started. I'll just share my screen right here and open the presentation. So today, as you are probably well aware, we'll be discovering who your B2B key partners and allies are on LinkedIn. And I've just got my own way of kind of sourcing all of this information really efficiently. So I just wanted to share this idea with as many people as possible. And also the significance of key partners, because key partners are often the difference between success and failure. They really are. Okay, so without further ado, I just thought I would introduce the organization that I'm representing. So I'm working in collaboration with Business Station. In the past, I've actually been an employee of this not-for-profit. It's an organization that specializes in providing subsidized business advisory and as part of a range of different government programs. The one that I'm most heavily involved with is called Digital Solutions, which is like a program that's designed to help upskill small business owners in particular and startup founders in their use of various software tools that exist, be it anything from accounting systems to CRMs to online collaboration software to graphic design suites and all these other kind of great tools. And of course, social media and digital marketing are huge focuses of the program. So we currently have probably a little less than 80 to 100 digital solutions advisors, but the actual the program will be re-awarded in the coming month. And so we might expand out to having 80 to 100 advisors again. And we predominantly cover Western Australia, Queensland, and the Northern Territory. So if you're like Sue and you don't live in one of those massive states and you're in one of the smaller ones, all you need to do is you need to go to like business.gov.au and search for the digital solutions provider that is kind of like our colleagues, but in South Australia. I think the ones that serve Victoria also serve South Australia. And I think the ones that serve, they might even serve Tasmania as well. So yeah, and the guys that serve New South Wales also serve ACT, but I can't remember offhand what organizations actually serve those different jurisdictions. So just so that you're aware about the organization as well, our head office is in East Perth. The office that we first launched about 20 years ago was actually in Gosnells, which is more of a working class kind of environment. And that was because, that's where the businesses needed support going back 20 years into the past. We've also got an allied health incubator across in Wanneroo, and we've got like an innovation hub in Joondalup. Yeah, we'll probably be reopening our office in Fortitude Valley in the not too distant future. So just a little bit about me before we get started, although we do have so I've already answered Sue's comment. So how I help small businesses and startups, or innovative small businesses, as I like to call them, I typically help them work on their actual strategy through use of a range of different visual strategy tools. So everything from your business model canvases to your value proposition canvases, operating model canvases, business model portfolio maps, and there's a range of other ones that have got different use cases. And we use these tools to help clarify different aspects of our strategy moving forward. This particular presentation is going to have a heavy focus on key partnership formation, which is pretty critical, as I'm sure you're all aware of. And another way of describing what I do is, startup and small business strategy. So I help co-create strategy with the small business and startup owners, and explicate it. So make sure they get it out onto the page, out of the head onto the page. And in that way, we're actually building the capacity of both the small business and startup founder, and also the ecosystem as well, because we're going to have better founders helping each other succeed more, and hopefully that will mean that we get all the benefits from that happening. So reach out to me if you'd ever like to have a further conversation around that. So let's run through the core of the content today and the core of the discussion. So what are key partnerships and why do we overlook them? Is the big question that I want to pose today. So as we've discussed, key partners are likely to be a critical component of your success in operating a successful business. And I'll also be sharing with you some of the stranger key partners that are the kind of partnerships that I've formed over the last couple of years. Because often I find that founders think along certain kinds of lines in terms of who they partner with. So they might just be looking at the commercial sector, but there's obviously the whole public sector and there's the whole not-for-profit sector that sometimes give us the possibility of forming interesting partnerships and collaborations with. But it's really organizations that we can co-create mutual value through collaboration. That's what we're looking at here. So the answer about why we overlook them is kind of an interesting one. So because I had a bit of extra time over Christmas and New Year's, I actually went to business.gov.au, which is where a lot of people get their business planning documents from, and actually reviewed the government's business plan templates. And they've also got a lean form of the business plan as well for people that don't want to write a 100-page document. And what I noticed, the very first comment that I had, I tried to search for partners or allies within the context of this plan as a template, and nothing came up. So I can actually show you, just try and get out of full screen. It's a bit annoying, but I can show you, get out of that, what the template looks like. And I've actually gone through and commented up. I should actually send it to the government so that they can, as some feedback, because that might actually enable the templates to be pretty dramatically improved, right? So I'm just opening now all the comments that I had on their particular, let's see, on their template. There was quite a few, but the first one that I came across was, the critical questions relating to who your key partners are, what supply chain you're in, and what your role in that supply chain is. And I also thought they didn't customize the business plan to the kind of business model that a particular business owner was pursuing. That's also kind of an interesting kind of observation. So I guess in the past, what business plans have been is just getting, it's almost seen as an administrative task that you have to undertake in order to get a business loan so you can set your business up and finance it through that kind of debt equity model. Now, debt equity is harder to come by nowadays for a small business. So what I hope will have happened is that the business plan, its function will change to much more of a strategic focus, actually adding value by asking the right questions at the right time. Now, and that's one of the reasons why I make sure that a lot of small businesses have gone through all of these different strategy canvases. And I'll be showing you a few of the canvases, and some of them will be really familiar to you. The business model canvas, you've probably seen that before. People use the lean canvas, but it's not necessarily a strategy one. It's more related to your product or service. So it focuses, it's a bit more product centric than business centric. Another thing that's worth commenting before we get off the page here of this business plan is that it doesn't really take into account the interdependencies of the different chapters or the relative importance of the different chapters. So it's kind of missing key partners, and key partners for many businesses is the most critical component of their business, like having really strong, integrated relationships, productive, collaborative relationships with their key partners. So yeah, it leaves quite a bit to be desired. And if you look at the lean version of the business plan that's been created by the government as well, all it is, it's just like the lean canvas pretty much, but put into a Word document format. So I think, yeah, it would be beneficial for us to update some of these documents to not overlook key partners and allies. So yeah, this is the lean canvas. And as you can see, you've got customer segments here, but you have no mention of key partners or allies. And very few books actually talk about it. I know that Crossing the Chasm, which is a book by Jeffrey Moore about go-to-market strategy, does pay quite a bit of attention to key partners and allies. But I think it doesn't emphasize quite how important these organizations can be to our success. But if you look at the business model canvas, which is my favorite tool of choice, and is one that I rarely see being used to its full potential, we can see that the business model canvas does have a huge emphasis on key partners by giving the most premium of real estate, which is the top left-hand corner, to the key partner, to forcing us to think about key partners first and foremost. And what I find through my work is that our choice of key partners has an influence on every other square of our business model canvas, which means it influences every other aspect of our business model. And it can affect, obviously, our operations as well quite considerably. And so I typically get founders to try to nail this square first before they even start to think about all the variety of other segments. Because depending upon your key partners can even define who your end customers are. So if Sue was to, I don't know, partner with KPMG or something, then she would have a certain kind of client, a certain tier of client. But if she then partnered with some other organization that needed to leverage her capabilities, then she'd probably be selling into a different segment altogether, because of the fact that each partner has their own kind of audience that they've attracted to, or own core audience of some sorts. So the business model canvas, just to refresh your memory, it's just like a one-page business plan. It captures all the key building blocks of your business, and it's a lot more agile, so we can update it a lot quicker. And there are a whole bunch of these tools. I think there's 8 or so that I've identified and actively use with founders that can be updated really quickly and help us capture those high-level requirements or the high-level structure of our organization. So it's easy to review, easy to provide feedback and action points and everything like that. So I find it incredibly useful as a business advisor to get people to make use of these kind of tools. Okay. So another interesting question that I often get asked is like, what is the difference between a key partner and a kind of like a customer or client? So notice in the business model canvas, you've got key partners on the left and you've got customer segments on the right. So what is the difference? And so in some cases, they're the same, but in many cases, they're not. So you've got like a 3-way relationship forming or a 4-way relationship. So all of these love triangles and love pyramids and everything can be established. So the customers are the ones that are the ultimate beneficiary. So for example, say that I partner with Business Station. Business Station is the not-for-profit. Business Station kind of partners with the government. The government provides the money. Business Station provides the program management capability. And then I partner with Business Station as the advisor. But then there's a fourth relationship as well, which is with the taxpayer, who is the small business owner. And it's really the customer, the end customer is actually the small business owner. But in some ways, it's also the government, but if we make the small business and the startup happy, then typically the government is happy as well, because we get the right feedback and the government is seen to be effective and everyone wins and everyone's happy. So effectively what we need to do, actually, yeah, I would say as part of the value chain, if we were to identify the value chain that I kind of operate in, it's myself, obviously, Business Station, and the federal government. Those are the three that are in this kind of three-way partnership to serve the end customer, which is the small business or startup. So that's kind of how it works from an operational perspective. I also thought I would show you this particular canvas, which is the operating model canvas. Now, what the operating model canvas is it's just, it kind of zooms in on this part of the business model canvas. So a lot of the canvases that you'll see and I show you over the course of our discussions are kind of zooming in on different building blocks a little bit. So you've got the value proposition canvas that zooms in on the value proposition and its relationship to the customer segments. And then you've got the operating model canvas that kind of shows us in a little bit more detail how to operationalize our key partnerships and how to make use of almost like shared resources that we can source from these key partnerships. Yeah, I've already mentioned that some customers can also be key partners if they're particularly big organizations. That tends to happen. And I've already talked about the fact that you can have 3 or 4 or 5 or any number of key partners all working together to deliver more value to an end customer. And so why it's so important that we do this is that someone may have already built a lot of what you're wanting to build. So rather than trying to take them on as a competitor, sometimes you can actually partner with them. So you can take them from having a generic product or an expected product in the market and then augmenting that, or then driving to a new potential, really, what can be offered from the partnership by building. Yeah, so I call this a focus on building the turrets instead of the castle. If the castle already exists, we don't need to build another one if someone already has it, right? Instead, what we can do is we can try to partner in some way in order for us to build on top of that castle and strengthen it or make it more grandiose, right? So I always look at other organizations as an opportunity to potentially do that, provided that they think along the same kind of lines. So just make sure that before you go and do anything in the real world, you give this an option. You think about this as a possibility, and you start to reach out and go, well, you guys have already got the wheel, we've got the spoke or whatever it is, and let's work together to make this work really well. Because, when you first start out in business, I guess you're wanting to build everything yourself, and it can be quite wasteful in that respect. So just to give you an idea of the kinds of organizations that I have partnered with in the past in some capacity, that maybe you might consider as possible key partner targets. So obviously you've got commercial businesses, which I interact with a little bit, but within the role that I'm currently engaged in, I work a little bit more closely with other kinds of organizations like governments, like incubators and innovation hubs, economic development agencies, which are related to state government, accelerator programs, angel syndicates, chambers of commerce, advisory board companies, state government departments, venture capital, institutes, associations, councils, small business networking clubs, other not-for-profit organizations, other government programs, tertiary educations. They've got tertiary institutes like universities that have venture divisions, cooperative research centers, and RTOs, which is like registered training organizations. So I always encourage people to think really laterally and broadly about the kinds of organizations that they can potentially reach out to. And I was a little bit, when I first started my business, I thought that, I needed to work directly with founders, which I can still do that if I so wish to do that. But then I kind of realized that a lot of the opportunity, or the best opportunity that I could potentially pursue and create a really strong value proposition around, is through partnering with a not-for-profit like a business station. So just think about what your equivalent to that would be. And before I did the partnering, it was very hard to hit break even. In fact, I was potentially losing quite a bit at that time. But as soon as I engaged in the right kind of partnership, it made my life a lot easier, and I was able to increase my margin quite considerably. So I was actually in a not-for-profit supply chain, which I didn't really know too much about at the time, even as I was entering the partnership. So I've already talked about what I do with the business modeling before we, so the long and short is, before you go out and try to get in contact with your key partners, it sometimes is worth trying to brainstorm who they might be. And sometimes having an advisor to kind of bounce ideas off of can make things a lot easier, because they might be able to come up with people that you could, or organizations you could partner with that you just haven't thought of. And one of the reasons why I get people to fill in this business model canvas is that it kind of forces the founders to answer a number of quite critical questions that we've referenced in when I was reviewing that business plan. So obviously it asks, who are our key partners? Because you need to put something in this square. Usually we get one of these canvases in Mural or Miro, which is like an online collaboration tool. And I asked the founder to put, the best guess of their top kind of 5 to 10 key partners as kind of like digital post-it notes on the canvas. And then we go through and make sure that they've fully understood what, the implications of choosing these particular key partners for their business. It also helps us ask the question, what supply chain are we in? So if someone has come back to me and they've kind of like chosen like 6 different supply chains, so it's 6 different key partners in 6 different supply chains, that could be correct, but often, when you're a startup, you tend to need to focus on 1 or 2 supply chains at the start, just to make sure that you can kind of get to market and you can substantiate a differentiated value proposition together with those key partners. And then the other question that I ask is often to do with the, what are we actually doing for this key partner? What is this key partner going to be doing for us? What are they going to bring to us in order for us to benefit? So that could be the kind of things that I like to look at when I'm assessing whether a key partnership is productive. I ask the question is, do they increase our distribution? So can they get us onto more projects, or find us new clients, or get us in front of a larger audience? Can they generate us revenue? Do they pay us directly, or do we get paid by kind of being appointed together with them by the customer segment? Sometimes there's also our association with the key partner, it gives us a huge equity boost, so a brand equity boost. So I always look for partners that look really good and have a strong brand equity. And then sometimes key partners also bring the rest of the product or the service. So say that you're specializing in a particular kind of implementation. So say you're doing Asana or Monday.com implementations, or you're doing a particular piece of work. maybe that piece of work needs to be done within the context of a much larger transformation or much larger project. So sometimes the key partner can bring the rest of that product or service provision to market together with you, right? So, yep, that's that. So often what I find is that founders haven't fully thought through who their key partners need to be. So when they come to me and they put together their business model canvas, so I typically ask them to provide me a number of different, to do a few homework tasks, right? So typically I see a founder for 1 hour up front, educate them about, how business models work, what a key partner is, yada, yada, yada. And then I set them homework, and when they do the homework, then we review the homework, and then we iterate through and improve the business model, and we improve our choice of key partners and perhaps the approach that we take to key partners. That's pretty much how I add value. And so, in terms of your key partners, my first question to the floor is, have you guys shortlisted your top 10 or top 15 partners that you think that you could potentially work productively with? And if so, who are they? So maybe we could, does anyone have a view on that? Would anyone like to offer some examples? So Sue hasn't done hers. That's okay. Anyone else? We've got Lovish. I will unmute you. And who do you think your key partners are, Lovish?
So not 10, 12, but we work with a consulting partner over East. So we've got complementary skills. So they've been an implementation partner for a lot of corporations over East, and the kind of consulting work that we need, they don't have that skill set. And what has started happening starting this year is they've started outsourcing or subcontracting that work to us. So we've been their consulting partner on a lot of things, but they've got the big implementation projects. So we just fit in their projects, and they're able to increase their service set because of that. And we've been able to have a broader market other than WA because of them.
Excellent, excellent. That's exactly how it's supposed to work, Lavish. So I'm guessing you'd be looking for more opportunities to form more relationships like that one.
Yes,
is that how
definitely.
you're thinking?
Yeah. And I think that's the approach we've been we've tried reaching out to customers directly, but the kind of space that we work in, I think that has been a lot difficult because people already have technology agreements with the bigger partners. So what we're trying to now do is try to fit in with other partners and probably complementing them rather than sort of competing with them.
Fantastic. Great mindset. Alrighty, so we've got a few more comments come through. For some reason, I can't see all the participants. Let me just try to, I'll just lower all the hands and see what happens. Just try and find, I can only see Lavish and Santha at the moment. Here we go. Let's see if I can, no, I can't see. But what, I'll try and go back to the chat. So what Joe Saunders, who's a colleague in the social media space, is mentioning is that she has quite a few consulting companies that provide complementary training and marketing agencies, which makes a lot of sense. I wish I could unmute you, Joe, but I can't find you anywhere on this box. So we'll just have to take that as your response. Essentially business pimps. So you work with business pimps. That sounds great. But working through partnerships, I'm guessing, Joe, has kind of opened your market up from just being able to target the smaller end of town, but actually target much larger businesses through these partnerships, and potentially these larger kind of end customers would be able to actually pay quite a bit more on an hourly basis than the much smaller end of town. Now from Jason, yeah, okay, cool. So Joe's come back and said she can certainly do it better. And that's an area that I think I can potentially grow as well, is that, you know, how do you not just identify all of these possible key partners, but, you know, reach out in the right way and activate them all, particularly when they're not all local, you know. So I've been looking at the Melbourne market, and I've got a few examples from the Melbourne market. So my big thing is that in order to properly activate a lot of those partnerships, I'll probably need to end up going to Melbourne, which I'm of course happy to do because Melbourne's quite nice. It's got really good coffee. And then it's just about waiting for the right time. And I think the right time for me would be around the time that they're doing the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. I think that's happening in May. So what I would love to have happen is for me to identify 10 to 20 key partners just in Melbourne, and then go and have 10 to 20 coffees face-to-face with all of them, hopefully already having semi-validated the fact that we could potentially work together. So yeah, that's what's going on in my mind at this moment in time. How do we actually turn all this amazing raw opportunity into, you know, properly integrated, activated opportunity? So is that where you're getting a little bit stuck as well, Joe? Is like, you know, you see that opportunity, but you're not fully operationalizing it. Will you cover how to manage the relationship and pricing, e.g. giving them a kickback or offering them a whole price to allow them to sell you? Not in this presentation, but I think that we definitely should in future presentations, just because I've only got an hour. We've still got quite a bit to cover. But that's a really good point. That's a good point. Like, how do we make sure that it's a win-win? I guess you do need to get to a stage that you can have a pretty open and candid conversation about pricing and how you're both going to make money out of this deal together with them, which requires upfront investment in the actual relationship itself. Jason's also said, when we put key partner, is it a specific business name or type of business, e.g. RTO or accelerators? When people are filling in the key partner square, I like them to be as specific as possible. So if they can identify the exact business, even the key personnel within that business, if they want to go completely crazy, then they can put their email and their phone number as well. And that definitely shows me that they've identified the right organization, not just the right type of organization, and then the right person in that organization, and they've got actual proper contact information so they can just pick the phone up and call them and organize that next catch up, right? Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for the comments, Joe. Yeah, we will cover that. Let's have a discussion at a later date, and we'll try and put something together to answer some of those really fine and grained questions about activating those channel partnerships. Excellent. Okay, so back to the presentation. I'm not sure you can still see my screen, I think. I'll just double share it just to make sure that you guys can see it. So some of us have an idea about who our key partners might be. Some of us have got, we've validated those key partners and we've activated the key partners. So if you're in the early stages, you just have to we have to do it hypothetically. We have to create a list of candidates. But yeah, you effectively go through the same process as you would with validating customers. So with validating customers, it's customer discovery, customer validation, customer creation, company building. And I think that same approach should apply to key partners. Key partner discovery, key partner validation, key partner creation. So where you're really good at just bringing on board new key partners for, willy-nilly. And then once you get to that stage, then of course, building, a company on top of that makes it a lot easier. So yeah, definitely, Sue, if you haven't gone through this exercise before, definitely recommend it. And I wish that we could work together, but because it just depends on where you've registered your business. If it's in South Australia, then hopefully there would be someone that's like my equivalent across in South Australia, or serving that area, that could help you in that capacity.
Thank you. Yeah. So when you sit down with somebody like you or the equivalent here, you just go through this and then try to nut out all those people, do you, that you can work with? Is that how it works?
Yeah. Well, that's my personal approach. So I'm not 100% sure about whether I've come across anyone in Western Australia doing quite the same as what I'm doing, my exact approach. But there are people that do similar stuff. There are people that, I guess, specialize in business planning a little bit more generically, maybe, or maybe they have a bit more of a traditional approach, but they still might cover this, this area, which is, formation of key partnerships. The only difference between what I'm doing and the traditional approach is that I tend to like to make use of the visual canvases. And this is another one of the visual canvases here. We've got hidden behind this dialog box, which is the heat map. So where once we've shortlisted our top 10 to 15 candidate key partners, then what I do is I get founders to use a tool called Mural or Miro and import this as an image, and then put like digital sticky notes of their different relationships based on how mature those relationships are. So they're either unproductive, which means we don't need to talk to that person too much unless we can, there's a strategic way of getting them into either cooperative or collaborative compliant. It's nothing to write home about. And there will be certain market drivers that help us shift people. So if a massive contract is awarded and a huge amount of work needs to be completed, then you can go all the way from compliant to collaborative overnight, right? So a lot of it's to do with timing, which we'll discuss in the coming slides as well. And so we're kind of taking people from almost being unaware of what we do to aware, to understand what we do, to support and buy in, commit and take action, and then pretty much take ownership over the relationship together with us. And sometimes you can achieve this if you happen to think along the same sort of lines as whoever you're wanting to partner with, you can go from awareness all the way through to this one really quickly. If a massive opportunity, they get a massive opportunity and they want to bring you in to help them deliver that. I definitely have seen this before. So yeah, so all of these canvases, all that they're really designed to do is provide a bit more transparency and a bit more focus around a key dimension of your business, right? So this one is very much oriented towards our key partners and our key stakeholders, and how well we are relating to each and every one of those, and how productively we're working with each and every one of them. So the next slide will answer this question, or the coming slides at least. What do you do if you don't have a clue who your key partners are? That's when you're really early stage. So if you don't know at all who your key partners might be, then a conversation with someone like myself or another quite experienced business owner might help. We might be able to make an educated guess. We might be right. We might be close to right. You know what I mean? Yeah, often, your choice of key partners reflects your level of maturity in business. So in the description for this session, I gave three steps that I was going to take you through, which is number one, setting up your LinkedIn to help you identify who else is servicing the same unmet or underserved need as your product as you do, whether you be providing a product or a service. I think most people would be kind of more along the lines from what we've discussed, more aligned with providing services or productized services or a mix of products and services. But I don't think that we've got anyone that's exclusively doing product here, but that's okay, either way. So effectively, if you may have come across this, in product management, it's called the product market fit pyramid, which is how you kind of like get alignment between market and product. What I've learned from being in business for many years is that the market decides what it needs. So we need to actually call it something else. We need to actually call it the market product fit pyramid. So effectively what we're doing when we're setting up LinkedIn is we are trying to find a whole bunch of examples of underserved needs related to particular customers or clients or key partners. And so I'll show you how to do that. And then we work backwards from that to define what key value proposition we need to communicate to them and what kind of bits and pieces of product or service offering we need to include. Yeah, so step one is to set LinkedIn so that we can get information about market, either sent to our inbox or popping up in our notifications. And then we need to find a way that we can reach out to confirm and validate partnership potential. So it might sound like you could partner with these people, but until you actually talk to them, you don't know what their circumstances are in full, right? And then number three is activating the key partnerships, which may require you to, get on a flight, go to Melbourne, go to Sydney, go to wherever it is that you need to go in order to fully activate that partnership. If it's in WA already, that means just, make your way across the city. It's a little easier. Yeah, awesome. Right, so I just thought I'd share with you my approach to it. So effectively, I leverage the jobs tab within LinkedIn. I've got a premium account, so it may display a little bit differently. But I think a lot of the functionality would be kind of similar. We just get a little bit more transparency into who's been checking our profile, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe Joe knows whether you can set up job alerts in the basic version of LinkedIn, but I'm pretty sure you can. LinkedIn, after all, was designed, predominantly, it has become a recruiter tool, a really powerful recruitment tool. So we can kind of leverage all of the market intel that is published in regards to all the kind of the job market as it changes. So yeah, Joe's confirmed back that you can set up job alerts within the free version, which is really cool. So what I've found over the last couple of months is that my top keywords, the ones that surface the kind of market intel that's most useful to me, use these keywords, right? Innovation, business model, startup, venture, and accelerators. And then, then it's just a matter of popping up on the radar of either the hiring manager or someone reasonably senior within the organization that is requiring additional support, right? So a job, people hire when they need additional support to deliver a product or service to an end customer somewhere in one of the supply chains that exist. So if I was to just type in innovation into Melbourne, what comes up straight away? And I mean, a lot is the answer. Melbourne has a lot of kind of opportunities that relate to the word innovation. Comes up with some of the universities like RMIT are looking for support with one of the entrepreneurship programs they're delivering. And then Melbourne University is also doing something similar, but they're doing an accelerator program. So actually it covers two of my keywords. So often these keywords kind of come together in these kind of job descriptions. The only issue with these large organizations like universities, is very seldom are they flexible enough to allow you to work as, come in as a consultant and do work. They tend to, the way that they procure is they typically procure just full-time roles and that kind of stuff. So while they've got some amazing opportunity there, we may not be able to work with them unless we join them. That's not the case for all organizations all of the time. That could also be the case for much, much, much larger like consultancies that you might partner with. But the smaller the organization is, typically the easier it is to partner with, just because you can get in contact much more easily with senior management, and there's less of a buying center to deal with. But that's not to say, I haven't put enough effort into trying to partner with massive organizations to say that it can't be done. It probably can be done. And some organizations actively set themselves up to be able to do this. Like I was reached out to just a couple of days ago, actually, by a US company that was wanting me to consult on business models or something like that in Perth on their behalf. So sometimes you get that happening as well, just out of the blue. So yeah, it's kind of interesting, but certain businesses aren't really set up to, offer more flexible conditions that you might need if you're wanting to, be a small business owner and have control over your own destiny a little bit more. But what this does do, even though these two examples, I might need to join these universities in order to serve them, is it shows me a whole variety of different well-resourced use cases for my services at this moment in time. So this came out less than a week ago, right? Or just a week ago. And this one probably was also a week ago. So you're getting real-time market intel on what kind of organizations are requiring the kind of skills that you have. So with Sue, I'm just trying to remember, you're in the change management space, is that right?
Sorry, unmute myself. I deliver workplace programs, but yeah, probably the one I'm most passionate about is a proprietary program that I'm certified to deliver, and that's a 2-day change program. It's called Change, Create New Results. And but I also have workplace wellness program that I've developed myself, and a mindfulness program as well. So I don't want to ask you to backtrack here, but I just want to, is there going to be a recording of this? I just want to know how you did that, how you put those keywords in. So
I'll show you. I'll show you right now. That's a really good point. So you can still see my screen. So you can set up to about, you're 100% right. We're not backtracking at all. This is very pertinent to the conversation. So this is the way you do it, right? I skipped a few steps. You click on jobs, you click on job alerts.
Right.
And then you decide which keywords and which markets you want to track. So yours might be change management in Adelaide or something like that, or South Australia, or...
So you add that keyword.
That's right. And then you can actually measure how well the keyword has performed over the course of time. So you can actually...
Maybe not the free version.
Well, maybe or maybe not. But you can, so say with Venture in Melbourne or whatever, what I do is I look at the first 5 tabs, and that gives me a sample of 100. And then I count how many relevant opportunities this has yielded. And I get an idea about how productive each and every one of those keywords has been for me. And then I kind of start to chop, right? So I reduce the number of searches that are being automated and conducted. So research is not as productive. Even it's not too bad, but it's yielding the wrong results, and maybe is a bit too general, I guess, of a keyword. So over the course of time, what you'll need to do is kind of dial in those keywords. But and I've also, what I've done recently is reduce the frequency that I get sent, these job alerts, because they were coming in every single day, and there was like dozens and dozens on every single of these 20 recommendations, and it was just doing my head in. but yeah, it provides a lot of visibility into the kinds of businesses that are using the same language as you, right? They understand the same concepts. They understand your value proposition more than the average person off the street, kind of thing.
So would maybe an example of my keyword might be workplace trainer or workplace.
Could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
You just need to test that though. Actually do the search and then see whether it's yielding the right kind of results, or whether you need to be more specific than that, or whether you need to use a word that's less common than workplace trainer. Because workplace trainer might be an architect or something. I'm just making it up, but
yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thanks for that, Sue. That was fantastic. Here's another example. So I typed in venture into Melbourne, came up with venture architect, Wavemaker Impact. They look really cool. CSIRO, again, they're like a huge organization that would probably want to gobble me up whole. So that would be a little bit more difficult to work with. So what you might do in that case, so say that you had a burning desire to work as a strategy consultant for CSIRO, but you wanted to be independent. What you would probably do is join the company for a period of time, demonstrate value, and then try to renegotiate how you collaborate. So sometimes you have to form the relationship on their terms for a period of time, and then you can potentially kind of spin back out a little bit. So the next stage is establishing contact to confirm and validate partnership potential. So sometimes if you look at the jobs, sometimes they actually have the hiring manager. So it could be a specific person within RMIT, or for example, this Wavemaker Impact. I think if you scroll down and you've got the premium suite, as we can see here, we've got the hiring team. So you can actually go ahead and hire that person. So I think this still exists. Yeah, so Sue Yap, I think she's in Singapore. Yeah, so I could potentially connect with her. In fact, that's a great idea. Why haven't I done that already? She doesn't have any really detailed contact information, but the more kind of options that you have to be able to contact the person, the more chance that you're going to end up making that first call and being able to get on a first meeting together with them. You might send them an email with your CV. So you're trying to sell yourself pretty much to say, you know, I'm a person of interest, I'm a person of usefulness. Oh yeah, sometimes Jo is 100% right. She's one of our LinkedIn experts. She's saying that contact information is seen once accepted. Yeah. So once the person has accepted you as a contact, then sometimes you get additional contact information. And sometimes people actually keep that information in their about section. In fact, in my about section, you can even book a meeting with me. I've got a Calendly invite. So I'm pretty open door when it comes to people reaching out, offering cool opportunities. I've only turned a few people down, like someone from the UAE wanting me to move to Dubai, and it's not really somewhere that I would consider. So I was like, probably don't really need to have this conversation right now. Yeah, having a booking link can make a huge difference to having people reach out and start to get in touch. Respond to their job applications. Sometimes that's the best way of popping up on their radar, is all of a sudden this amazing CV comes through and they're like, who the hell is that? We need to know more. Well, hopefully that's the case, right? Sometimes you can go to their office. Sometimes you can, once you know who they are, then you can track what they're actually doing and the events that they're going to. And if you're in the same city, you can go and meet them there, or you can invite them to come to a networking meeting with you, or an industry meeting, or whatever it is. Add value to their life that way. But yeah, always look through the lens of value. How do we create value for this other person so that they want to remain connected and see future benefit for themselves and by being part of your network. And then sometimes if you get that meeting, and you're able to discuss a meaningful partnership, then having a capability statement that almost operates as like an addendum to your CV can make a huge difference, because you can unpack a little bit more about what you can do together. Because there's probably 1,000 things that I can do with just Joe, who's sending all the messages via chat, but we just don't know the full suite of options that we could possibly do in terms of collaboration, just because we just haven't invested that time to understand all those possibilities just yet. Yeah, and then as I mentioned before, you use your key partner or stakeholder heat map to actually track people or organizations, key people in organizations, as they mature from unproductive to compliant to cooperative to collaborative. But it does take time, does mean you need to keep in contact with these people. And one of the things that this book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, advocates is just like relentless kind of pursuit without looking needy at the same time. You can't, you can't be sucking up too much to these organizations, but at the same time, you do need to keep on the radar. You do need to ping them a lot more than you would imagine. And you do need to continue to follow up. I do think that you still need to, for a key partnership, sometimes you can get away with not meeting them, but often it makes sense for them to kind of size you up, see what kind of person you are, just so that they can build that familiarity. So that's why it takes time, is because relationships take a while to build. And then that will give you the ability to discuss the partnership candidly and discuss like things like financial arrangements and that kind of thing that Joe was alluding to in the past. And then they also need to know about your ability to serve them. Do you have 50% of your time that they can book, or is it 100% or 25%, or what kind of resources does your organization have that they can kind of tap into when they need, when the opportunity arises? So that's that. We do have a comment. Let's see. Using a highlight section to see where they're hanging out. Yeah, that's another good way to kind of source information about where you might be able to bump into them in real life is pretty useful. Understanding which groups they're part of is super important. So thanks for that, Joe. That's fantastic. So just becoming like a professional stalker, right? That's but in a very nice way, with the intention of productive partnerships. Yeah, so I'm sure that there's a positive side to stalking that we haven't yet properly discussed. Yeah, so opportunities to keep in touch with me. So if you're a small business or a startup founder and you're located in Queensland, Northern Territory, or Western Australia, then the announcement is that we are in the process, or Business Station's in the process of investigating how to run online speed networking opportunities. We will be launching firstly in Queensland, and then we'll probably be doing some in Western Australia. If you want to join online speed networking before then just send me an email and I will try to get you an invite to one of the online speed networking clubs that are already operational in Western Australia or Queensland. Other than that, other ways to work with me is to work with me on your business models or your operating model canvas or your, key partner heat map, that kind of thing. And we just help you mature different facets of what you're doing by leveraging those tools. And of course, I've got more workshops and webinars coming up on different topics. I've got a bit of a masterclass on Agile business planning and business modeling coming up as well. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Do you guys have any more comments or questions you'd like to pose before we wrap the session up? No, it doesn't sound like it. Thanks very much, everyone. I look forward to keeping in touch with all of you. unfortunately, Sue, we can't meet, but the rest of you guys, you're obviously either already in touch or we're already working together in some capacity, and just ping me if you need my help in any way, or would like opportunities for networking and that other kind of stuff. Okay, so have a great afternoon, and I will see you later.